Hello and welcome to the much delayed final episode of my build of the Amati 1-100 Chinese Pirate Junk. It's been a bit of a struggle bringing this ship into port. I normally enjoy rigging, but I really hit the wall on this ship's rigging, despite it being quite a bit simpler than the European ships I'm more experienced with. I also had some health challenges in December and some hospital time, and that derailed both my interest in modeling and my ability. I also fell down the rabbit hole of painting miniatures and found that a good deal more entertaining than struggling with the junk. But I needed to get the junk off my bench and onto my shelf, so I finally just put on my big boy pants and pushed on through. The result is not my finest build, but one that I'm glad to have in my collection. Let's take a tour of the final steps of this build. First, the sails. I found the sails included in the kit to be a bit too coarse in fabric and sewing to use for my ship. They looked like burlap instead of the silk or cotton used on actual junks. The sewing of the sails does not scale well. The serging on the edges is particularly oversized. Also, I wanted colored sails, which were very common on Asian ships. I tried dyeing the sails included, thinking it would make the sails look better and make the seams more subdued, but I was very wrong. The sails took the dye, but the thread used in the seams did not, and made the sails look even worse. I didn't even take a photo of those awful things. I ended up using the included sails only as a pattern for hand-sewn ones. I bought a square of wine-colored cotton fabric and attached a bolt rope on the perimeter of the sail. I then hand-sewed the seam lines in gold thread. This took a great deal of time, but I like the result. The included Amati plans are not much help on rigging. There is a good sail and rigging plan, but not much on the way lines were handled at the deck level. I had a bit of trouble finding decent resources on junk sails and rigging, so I did the best I could with the help of a couple of books I had on hand and the internet. Junk sails have bamboo poles that span the sails, stiffening them and helping in aerodynamics and sail handling. The kit uses 2mm basswood dowels to simulate these, and they look pretty good. The poles are secured at each end to the bolt rope. The sails are attached to the mast with a series of lines that go around the mast, but have no beads or perils to prevent chafing. I suspect, though I do not know for certain, that the leech lines and hulls of the sheets took most of the stress, and the short lines attaching the sails to the mast were spared the brunt of the wind's energy. Anyway, these lines are a major source of time investment. Each bamboo pole has one of these that fastens on either side of the mast, and only one end can be secured before installation. If I had this kit to do over, I would not close off the top of the mast and rig the sails first on my nice spacious bench, then slide them down the mast. But as I had already topped the mast, I had to do the knotwork with a pair of tweezers in place and work around the standing rigging. Very tedious. The sails each have a pair of halyards and a downhaul that are fairly straightforward and much like their European counterparts. The process was tedious and time-consuming, but I endeavored to persevere and eventually tied the last knot and faked the last line. The result will be a nice contrast to the brigs, frigates, and galleons on my shelves. My reflections on the Amati kit. The Amati Pirate Junk costs about $125 US. Despite this entry-level price point, I consider it a very good value and a lot of kit for the money. In assessing the difficulty, I would not consider this as a beginner's kit for two reasons. The instructions are not detailed enough for a beginner, and the quality of materials requires supplementing and a bit of experience to overcome. The wood included in the kit is excellent, both the plywood keel and frames and the planking. The mast dowels, deck fittings, and hardware are excellent as well. The cordage is good quality. My only complaint is the sails, as I previously discussed. The instructions were very adequate and detailed for the hull construction, a bit lacking in detail for the deck fittings, and sorely lacking in rigging detail. The beginning modeler would be hard-pressed to finish this model as a first effort. For example, the cartoonish transfer decals might make for a colorful model, but I greatly prefer a more subtle decoration scheme for my models. The plans themselves have a couple issues I overcame with an on-the-fly redesign. The plans have 2 windlasses amidships, but I only installed one as the deck in that area is pretty crowded and I could not imagine sailors crawling over each other and over the lines to try to use them. The placement of lines around the cannon carriages required a bit of redesign as well. One has to be able to imagine the workflow of the sailors in both handling lines and gunnery to make this model realistic. The deckhouse/sun-thatched roof had to be omitted on my build. I felt that adding it obscured the hatch and stairs that I worked so hard to create. Also, it would make crewing the guns in that area of the ship very difficult. But all things considered, I think I got exactly what I was expecting out of this kit. A sound foundational model I could riff on, adding my own interpretation and modifications, a small education in a ship type different from my European galleon comfort zone, and a good-looking display piece for my collection. If you just stumbled upon this video and maybe have never built a wooden ship, I encourage you to try. Start small, start simple, both with kit and tools, and you might find this to be an enjoyable pastime as I have for about 30 years. There are a number of good videos by builders much better than myself that can help you decide on a kit and take first steps toward a successful result. And if you're lucky enough to have a local hobby shop, please patronize them. Local hobby shops are a dying species and we need to keep them going as much as possible. If you've watched the other episodes in this build and have endured the delay to this final one, I thank you for watching. I've enjoyed this build and I've enjoyed making the videos. I hope to come out with some more in the near future, as soon as I pick my next project.